Hello and welcome to another video from Taste of Terry. Today I'm going to show you how to make a cake. Okay, this is a cake I kind of made up a little bit, sort of. Okay, what you need for this is eggs, white cake mix, two of them actually, two white cake mixes. I got two chocolate frostings. We probably will not use the chocolate frosting, all of it, but chocolate fudge. This is a Pillsbury white cake. Now, I always preach, try to do things inexpensive. This cake mix was only 6 cents more than the cheaper Great Value. Now with this, a cherry pie filling. That was the inexpensive one, $2.38, I do believe. You need oil, eggs, whatever the box says you need, you will need for the cake. Now, when you do these, I'm going to try to do it quick. I've already preheated the oven 350, but we're not going to leave it at 350 because this is going to be a thicker cake. Okay, so, but when you do this, this is always the fun part, getting this open without spilling it all over, you know. You do what it says on the back. Now, it says you can do it without yolks or with yolks. I use yolks because, you know, sometimes when you make a white cake, you don't use them because that's no yolk. Get it? It's not a yolk. Yeah, no, stale joke. So use the directions on the back of the boxes. You use 3 eggs if you're using only the egg whites, or if you're using the yolks. You use 4 eggs if you're using the egg whites. Now we're using 2 cake mixes, and there's a reason behind that. Because this particular kind of cake, I like to make it kind of a fat cake. It's going to be a thicker cake. But the good thing about it is 2 round pans are ready to go. The good thing about it is you'll have a little left over. So when the kids say, "Hey, Mom, I want a piece of cake," you don't have to worry about it because you can make the cake and eat it too. Another cheap joke. Anyhow, so right on the back, we're going to add, because it's double mix, you double everything up. We're going to add a cup of oil. If you're using one mix, it's only half a cup of oil. Then we need 2 cups of water. And we have the bottled water here. Now see, our house is on a well. So we need to use bottled water. I was a little short on that last cup. We're going to fill it up all perfectly. Okay, I use a mixer. We got a mixer here. We got to mix everything together. I need 3 eggs yet. Okay, 3 eggs. I use large eggs. And I know there's some say large eggs, some say medium, just eggs. For me, I like to use large. Now it's funny how they seem smaller than they used to when I was a kid, but I don't know, maybe the chickens are smaller. So in this case, we're going to use 6 eggs because we got to double it up. Like I said, you'll see the recipe on the back of the box. Oops. And that's 4, 5, and 1 more would make 6. Like I said, I use the yolks. You don't have to use the yolks, but if you don't, you have to add more oil. And you add more oil, and you add 4 egg whites instead. I use a mixer at a low speed, start mixing her up. Now, if you want your cake white, like I said, just don't use the yolk. I use the yolk. As it gets mixed up a little bit, you keep starting to mix in really good. You're going to increase the speed of just a hair on the mixer. Now, I only think the white is for look appearances, but some may think that I'm going to increase it a little bit more. You know, Now I'm going to let it sit for a couple seconds. I always kind of do that. I let it sit, let it get there, and then we're going to mix it again. Okay, so I'm going to let that sit for a couple of seconds. We'll be back in 1 second. Okay, we'll let that sit a couple seconds. And I'm going to make sure we get everything off the bottom here. Yeah. Don't always mix on some of these bowls right on the bottom. As you can see, it's blended really good. Now, I have the square pan here only because we're not going to use the entire mix in the round pans. It's going to be a thicker cake, but we don't want it to be a tower. Or you can make it a tower, but see, it's preheated the oven 350. We're going to reduce it to 325 when we put this in. And we're going to mix it again. This is funny. This actually has like a turbo button on it. So my mixer is a turbocharged. Now what we do is we put these in a pan. We're going to fill it up approximately halfway. You'll see that in a second. This is the part everybody loves. So when we're done with this part of it and people get to lick off the beaters. Okay. What I'm going to do is I took one of the round pans. Look at that lovely stuff. We're going to put some in this pan. There we go. Oh, let that even out a little bit so we know how much we got in there. Now the pan's going to be approximately half full, okay? And your baking is basically going to be the same time-wise, really, believe it or not. Maybe an extra 5 minutes. You know, you stick a toothpick in it or even a sharp knife and test that. Okay, so now we're doing the other one. We want it to be about half full, just like that one is. Try to keep them even. Okay, this one's going to have a little bit more over here. Okay. Look at that. Isn't that lovely? Can you see that? Oh, I know you can. Is your mouth watering yet? Could be. Okay, now with that, like I said, approximately half full. Those two are ready to go in the oven. Now, we're going to take what's left over, put it in a little square pan. This will cook quicker because it's going to be thinner. But, like I said, how many times do you make a cake and if you have kids or anything, have that spatula ready to get every bit of that out because we want a nice piece of cake. Now, this, like I said, this will cook a little faster, but it's good to have a little extra, like I said, for the kids or the spouse or whoever happens to be around. I'm going to set the bowl up here. We're going to spread that out in the pan. Now, it's going to be thin, like I said. It's only a little bit. But, like I said, for those people that are like, man, that cake smells good, and they want to get a piece, well, they'll be able to now. Okay, now, another thing is, if you like strawberries more than cherries, get strawberry pie filling. You will use the whole can, though. Trust me. Okay. Okay, that is ready to go in the oven. We'll be back. And, well, you read the instructions. For 2 round pans, 34 minutes approximately. So we're going to put these in the oven, and we'll be back in about a half hour. I just wanted to add something that I forgot to add. I use cooking spray, and you dust with flour the pans before you put everything in it. I like to use the nifty little round pans I have that have the scrapers on them to take it out of the pan really even. Cakes are about half done with the baking. I just wanted to say, don't forget, use the cooking spray and dust it with flour. Be back shortly. Okay, as I said, the square cake came out sooner because it's thinner. But I want people to get the idea of what I mean. When you pull the toothpick out, you can see it's clean. Do it again. And it's clean. I always check a couple different spots. So we're going to let that cool off. The other two cakes should be done about 7 minutes. Like I said, this one came out a little sooner because it's thinner. We'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, so the cakes are done. They haven't cooled yet, but I wanted to show you. This cake is thick, so the toothpick didn't quite fit, but nice and clean. Now we're going to let them cool off for a little bit. That one's cool. This one's cool. That one's still warm, and this one's still warm. Now, you can see that one's a little thicker. So I had a little bit more dough in that one. Oh, well, who cares? But that's okay, because we're going to be frosting it next. We're going to give it a few minutes to cool down. I'm going to try to frost it a little ahead of time. But see what happens if you try to frost it when it's warm. The cake comes off with it. The little shell here. Okay, but we need this sharp knife for a couple of reasons, and I'll show you why. Okay, so we're going to end up using the thicker one for the bottom, the thinner one for the top, because we're actually going to cut some of this out. Ooh, ninja. Ninja cake man. Okay, so we'll be back in a couple of minutes when these cool down. Okay, so the cakes are out of the pans. They're a little warm still, but not too bad. I can still, I can touch it. It feels good. It's a little bouncy and springy, just what we need. As you can see, it came out nice and clean out of the pans. That's why, again, you got to make sure you put a little cooking spray in there and dab it with some flour. Now, you notice this one's like beautiful round. This one's like a little camel humped. Okay? This one's still a little warmer. It took about 40 minutes for that one to get done. Look at that, okay? So anyhow, what I have is this lovely Tupperware pan. Now, I got this, and I say inexpensive all the time. I actually, believe it or not, got that pan from a yard sale for $1. $1. So I thought, we're making cake. I like to have my cake, eat it too, so why don't we have some cake music? Okay, so I'm going to add a little cake music. So anyhow, as you can see, the cakes are pretty much done. Now they're still a little bit warm. You might want to let them cool down a little bit more. But I wanted to get going on this. The top actually got done about 5 minutes before the bottom did. Okay? So that is my man Flo Rida. I know I don't have any rights to the music or whatever they call it. So this is what we're going to do with this, okay? We're going to take our knife and we're going to trim this on the top, okay? And I bow it in just a hair, okay? This is the thicker one that was on the bottom. My boy Apollo's right down here looking for scraps. We'll take a sharp knife and we'll cut this around here. And like I said, I got a little bit more left over. Got this is a Rada. And it's a little spatula thing, but it's great for spreading. Okay, oh, look at the steam come off of that bad boy. As you can see, it's springy and it is done, okay? Now I had a little deep in the middle, so I'm going to take some of it, stick it back on there. With this cake, you can do that. Now, it is still out warmer than I'd like it to be. Let it cool down a little quicker, okay? Next, I'm going to take a little bit of this cherries. Great value cherry pie filling. think it was 238 or something like that. So you take the cherry pie filling, you take a little bit of it, you put it in here. Now why we dig it out a little bit, because we still want our cake to be even and not to fall over. So we dig it out a little bit. Paulo must have some crumbs because he's right under my feet. So we spread the cherries out a little bit. Let me tell you something, this is a crowd pleaser, this cake. Like I said, we don't want it tipping over. So you spread a layer of cherries. I spread them out for the center of it. Okay. Now you want to use about half the cherries down here. Okay, now that that's all spread. Now does that look delish? Okay, so now I am going to clean this knife off. Okay. So the next phase of this, and you're probably wondering, how do I frost that? Room temperature frosting. You want it to be at room frost temperature. I get 2 of these. I have not yet ever used both of them. So what we're going to do first is flip over your top layer. That's right, flip it over. Mix a little bit of frosting up. You know how it kind of looks weird on the top there? So we're going to mix that up, and we're going to put a layer of frosting on the bottom of the top layer. Okay, on the bottom of the top layer. Okay, you don't have to put as much as you feel you want. Now, if you want to give this to your kids and you want them to be bouncing off the walls, add more frosting. But if you don't, just add a nice thin layer. It's, I guess for frosting, it's like a medium thickness. Okay? Now, once that's done, as you can see, nice and frosted. Isn't that beautiful? You can see that. Now, you take it, set it there, and set it on top of the layer of cherries. Got frosted in my hand. We know where that goes. Now, that's all set. Now we can frost the cake. I always start with the top before I do the sides. I'm going to put a layer on the top. Now, try to make it nice and even. But if you can, try to a little heavy on the outsides. And I'll show you why in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to spread this across the top. I'm grateful that this, even though this is warm, it is spreading great. But you don't want to use cold frosting, trust me. You'll be like, it's like putting on glue. Okay? So now that I've done that, look at that. Now, I am no cake maker, baker, or anything like that. So this isn't going to be like a store-bought cake by all means. But if I put a little extra on the outsides, as you can see, you'll see the reason why. Okay? In a minute. So I'm going to do the sides a little bit here. Now you see why we have 2 boxes of frosting, not just one. But look at that. See, you see the little lip that I got there? A little bit of lip on the outside. Okay. And now we do the sides. So look, isn't that lovely? And I'm not even a baker for real, not one of the professional bakers. Okay. Now, as you can see, we're running out of frosting, but the good news is, this is why we buy 2. If you ask me, I think that even when you have one thing of frosting for one cake, I don't think it's ever enough. So, wipe that off a second. Now, as you notice, the cake has not fallen down, and it's a little on the thicker side. But that's good because you're going to want to have thickness on there to hold everything together. We opened up our second frosting. Oh, like I said, now the best part, another good part, not the best part of this, of course, is going to be eating it. Okay, almost done with the frosting. I'm trying to hurry it up for you. Like I said, I am not a bake cake froster, decorator, or anything like that. But you don't have to be, as you can see. You don't have to be like some great decorator to make a wonderful cake. And I mean family events, just you're home and you want to make a nice cake for somebody. You have people coming over. Whatever you're doing, you're doing. But this, when you see it done, they're going to think you might have bought it in a store. Won't they be surprised when you say to them, I made that? See how this little flat knife works so great? Now, it looks like I got everything. Now, here's the key. Here's the fun part, the funny part. Okay, how we make it look. I'm going to smooth that out. I'm going to try to make it look as professional as I can, even though I'm not a pro. I think it'll look pretty lovely like that. Last but not least, you have some leftover cherry mix. Oh, ho, ho. Here's the good part. You're going to take the cherry mix, and you're going to put it on the top. Now, I start in the middle with it, okay? And I spread it out from the middle out. You don't want to mess it up too much, mess with it too much. Cakes, believe it or not, they can be delicate. And I'm going to be honest, I've actually made a cake before. I forgot what kind it was. It was something I was trying out new on my own. And we're taking it to an event at what would be my in-laws. And the damn cake fell over when it was in my vehicle. And I got there and I was like, oh, that didn't exactly work out the way I had hoped. So, okay, now we spread this out to the outside. You got a little bit left in there of the juice. You're going to use the rest of this half a can. You really want to. And because you want a lot of flavor, the cherry flavor in there. This is almost empty. And look at that cake. You now have my cherry white cake with chocolate frosting. See how it's spread out? Now, sometimes you might get a cherry that'll drip down the side. Not a big deal. Pick it up and put it back on the cake. And now, the only other thing we have left to do, but we're not going to do that for sake of time, frost the little square cake. But as you look at that, would you look at that, huh? Oh, yeah. This is going to be mowed later on. We're going to frost this little cake here with the frosting. And so when the kids you've been smelling this cake cooking, and you got another little piece over there, you're going to be like, oh, thank God I got something to try. With that, enjoy. Awesome cake. Hope you like it. Please like, subscribe, share, and do all that great stuff.